And now, the next session is also hosting very distinguished panelists, Meryem Torzişi from Deep Search Labs, Cenk Sidar of Enquire AI, and Christina Frankopan from Lazard Financial Advisory are taking a reality check on AI solutions. I would like to invite them to this stage. Mehmet Nuri from Marge Consulting and Marmara University is moderating this session. I would also like to invite our moderator to the stage. Welcome. Yes, Mr. Ünal, you may take the lead.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. I'm Associated Professor Mehmet Nuri. I'll moderate this session named Reality Check of AI. We will discuss realities of creating innovative solutions. As you know that there are lots of AI-based solutions, practices, products, etc. We will talk about how they work. First of all, I'll introduce our panelists. On my left, Ms. Frankopon. Ms. Christina is a consultant to Lazard on Fintech and blockchain within the Financial Institutions Group. She started her career in the corporate finance department of Lazard in 1995. She then gained startup experience before working with boutique corporate finance houses, primarily advising on asset management transactions. And Ms. Torzişi, Meryem Torzişi, comes from an EE background with a focus on signal processing. She has worked as an academic researcher, quantitative researcher, and data scientist. She is the founder and current CEO of Deep Search Labs, a next-generation research engine. The company has been chosen as a startup to track by Barclays Equity Research Team, startup to watch by Amadeus Venture Capital and Sifted, and referred to as one of the 40 fastest-growing AI startups. And Mr. Cenk Sidar is at vanguard of artificial intelligence with the knowledge sector as the founder and CEO of Enquire AI. The Enquire platform harnesses the power of AI to synchronize and bestow experts' insights on a myriad of organizations worldwide. Launching Sidar Globe Advisors in 2010, Sidar steered the consultancy to serve notable clients like Microsoft, Uber, and Hilton, offering keen insights into global operations, renowned for his dedication to the fusion of AI and human intelligence. And now, first of all, we have two big questions. First question is where we are. First, and we will talk about in two rounds. First round, I'll ask our panelists where we are. Let's start with Ms. Frankopon. Why are we think we discuss AI practices widely today? Why?
Well, I think following on from the last panel, actually, I would say, the first thing is that AI is not new. In fact, 10, 15 years ago, my developer friends used to say it's just code. Yeah. So, it's using an algorithm, produce an output. Obviously, that's a very facile way to think about it. And, AI algorithms have become much more complex. I think the reason we're talking about it now is because there's been a bit of a step change as a result of LLMs and generative AI over the last couple of years that has really captured attention, imagination, and is really starting to enable very practical use cases at the enterprise level. So I think that's why we're talking about it now. I'm particularly interested, obviously, in AI in financial services, and I'm certainly seeing that in large organizations, that there are the obvious step change gains in terms of usability of some of these models, notwithstanding some of the obstacles, which I think some organizations are struggling with more than others, in terms of security, explainability, regulation, and so on. But I think that's why we're talking about it now.
Yes, maybe you told us, what are we looking into today? What are we looking into today for AI?
You mean in terms of use cases, or in terms
use case? Use case. We'll talk
well, what I'm seeing, I think, is very interesting. Is that if one thinks about the AI kind of stack, you've got the foundational models, and then there's a set of infrastructure, middleware. You've got horizontal applications that go through the organization, and you've got vertical applications that are industry specific. What I'm seeing actually is that people are finding use cases in those operational at the operational level that are really useful, that are providing efficiency gains to them today. And equally on the vertical side, say for financial services or legal tech, for example, is already quite advanced as a result of some of these foundational models, LLMs and so on. And those are being put into production very quickly, if not, sometimes avoiding the POC stage altogether. The basic bottom line being is that it really works, and so that's what I'm seeing. I'm also, the other thing I'm seeing is a kind of a bit more of a kind of customization, or a bit more thinking in terms of how we're using the big models, or more vertical specific or use case specific models appropriately. So as I saw somebody say, you don't need a Lamborghini to deliver a pizza, right? So, you need the minimum viable level of model for your use case that is appropriate. And so I'm seeing more things like small language models emerging, or compute that happens closer to the end location. For example, in IoT, you might have very small models operating in the physical device, which looks a bit more like edge computing in a way than we might have seen before. So it's not just you take this huge model and throw the Lamborghini at everything. It's a little bit more customization for the appropriate use case.
So when we look at innovation, what are the main innovation areas?
Well, as I say, I think there's still quite a lot going on at the foundational level, but in terms of specific use cases, I see that changing a lot. The other area that I might touch very briefly in terms of innovation is, obviously we all know, data goes in, model does its thing, and decisions come out. So you need data, and vast amounts of data have been used, scraped, and utilized, many of them from public sources, increasingly for specific use cases from private sources. The word, though, is that we're running out of data, which seems incredible considering how many terabytes of data we're producing every millisecond of the day. So a lot of talk now is about how we're going to be using synthetic data going forward. So I think generation of synthetic data is quite an interesting new frontier area. Apparently we're going to run out of public data by 2026, but we'll see.
Yes, thanks, Ms. Franco. And Ms. Mariam, why are we think we discuss AI today? The same question.
Obviously, these LLMs have been around since 2015. Actually, they're not very new. The first publication was in 2015. But they didn't have a front end, so not everybody could use them. And with the ChatGPT, you suddenly had a front end, and all the consumers started using them. The problem, when in startup world, they say if you have a good application, you never release it to consumers. If you have a if you have a good application, you keep it and you sell it to businesses. If you have a bad application, you release it to consumers because you want to train it and make it better and better. And I believe that it was too early for these applications to be released. Now, from a point of view of artificial intelligence, there's nothing intelligent about these companies. I am in this field, and my company is based on that. But there's nothing intelligent about them. They're not creative. They don't have human intuition. They are very good at description. They can describe what has happened in the past, what is happening now. They are not very good at prediction. And they do hallucinate because the training data that was used to train these algorithms were not of great quality. They didn't do a lot of linking, and linking is really important. Now, these algorithms are very good at generalization on their own. So they're very good at removing redundant tasks, and these sorts of things would leave humans to do more creative work that were previously not doing creative work. So you can look at them as infrastructure algorithms. And in their current format, being centralized, they're not going to continue, like in future, you're not going to see centralized LLMs. You're going to see decentralized LLMs, where these algorithms are going to be trained on your computers, because majority of your computers are not being utilized to their end use case. And with your data and other people's data included. So the future of these algorithms is going to be a decentralized LLM. Now, where does this leave like the use cases in financial services? You can still use these algorithms in tasks that are redundant. So for compliance basis, for operations, in legal, as you mentioned, but in coding. Some sort of coding that you're doing as a software engineer can actually be replaced by algorithms. Not all. The creative elements will still be needed, and those still require humans. With regards to front end, when it comes to front end, these algorithms are very good at creating market consensus research reports, right? So you put in all the research consensus report into these algorithms, and you pull out what does the consensus think. This is actually what we provide to financial services. Another use cases of such generative algorithms, as you all know, is video generation. Video generation, again, they've been trained on YouTube, Unreal Engine, that is being used for like gaming and video games creation. So the quality of them are good, but the use cases are limited. If you are a news agency, you might want to create very quick video, 1 minute, and drop it in YouTube or Twitter and produce like a report on whatever topic that's happening. But that topic needs to be reliable. The videos, images that are being created need to be reliable also. We are not there yet. The current Sora, for example, ChatGPT is producing, is great, but they're creative, they're artistic, they're not used for news. For marketing, you're not going to be using them. Maybe for adverts, you can use them. That's another path.
Mr. Torsizi, I'll ask the same question for innovations. What are the main innovation now? What do you think?
In finance?
In the AI field. In the AI field.
In the AI field, I would say majority of the people are trying to still figuring out how to use these foundational models, like the LLMs in general, or the generative algorithms, or create like their own sets of algorithms. So the progress actually, people think it's fast, but it isn't. These algorithms have got a lot of issues, right? Like, for example, security is one, privacy is another one, hallucination is another one because the trained data was not of great quality. And to create very good training data, you need to do a lot of work on it. And that means that computational power is going to go to the roof. So these algorithms, they require continuous money being pulled into them. Yeah. Now, is that sustainable in the long run? I don't think so. So decentralization is something that few companies are exploring, how to actually train these algorithms in a decentralized format. On the data side, as you mentioned, synthetic data is another thing. But then if you think about it, by 2026, you would have majority of the outputs online are going to be generative, like generative AI produced content. So where does that leave us? It actually is a very weird place.
Yeah, it's self-reflective.
Yes, exactly. So you're creating echo chambers, technically. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. Like to be honest, I feel like innovation itself requires accuracy, and we are not there yet.
Maybe we will go on the future perspective. And Mr. Star, what do you think? Why do you think we discuss AI today?
Thank you. First of all, I apologize for
we can't
being
hear
there. Can you hear me now?
Mr. Sidar, sorry.
Can you hear me?
We can't.
Can you hear me? I'm talking, but
You know. We can't.
can you hear me now? I think we had a problem earlier.
Now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Start again.
Sorry. So first of all, I apologize for not being able there for my travel schedule, but it's a great pleasure to be at the panel. I will basically, I agree with Christina. AI.
Are you hearing? Are you hearing? Mr. Sidar, sorry, there is a trouble.
Can you hear me now?
Can you high up? We can't hear of you, but
Can you
adjust
hear me now?
again? Can you adjust again?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Now.
Can you hear? Does it work?
Yes. Now. Now. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Start again.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. First of all, I apologize for not being able there, but I'm really happy to be part of the panel. I agree with Christina. Like, AI is not new, and I will even take it, like further. Like Alan Turing in 1950s came out with the term, artificial intelligence. But we talk about it. Why we talk about it now? I think it's a great question, Mehmet, you ask. And I will wear my political scientist hat because I'm trained political scientist and economist. I think we talk about it now because AI start like upending the knowledge economy, knowledge industry. It's the first time that any of these industrial revolutions, and I call it a revolution, the AI revolution, industrial revolution, information revolution, and now we are, I think, a part of AI revolution. And this is the first revolution start impacting the white collar, the old terminology, or knowledge economy, and larger segments of knowledge economy workers start being impacted from this revolution. And we start seeing that, it's not like just manufacturing employees or factory workers or like the old secretaries, like kind of work has been became like irrelevant, is more like a lawyer's, accountants, consultants job is risk with this new revolution. So I think this is why we're really talking about it, because we start seeing the impact of large language models, and then at the front end, as Mariam said, ChatGPT, and the public and all, like, so what could change with this revolution after seeing the immediate impact. And also important fact that OpenAI the AI has been the most fastest adopted technology. Like OpenAI, ChatGPT reached 100 million users only within 2 months. Even TikTok took about 5 times slower than that. So like the adoption of AI is very fast. But also, I think we should highlight, and I agree with Mariam about LLMs are not being smart. It's a language model. It predicts what word comes after each other, right? It's not large reasoning model. It's a large language model. It doesn't predict. It doesn't have the human intellect. It doesn't have the human judgment, empathy. And I agree with the school of thought that LLMs will never be as smart as humans. And this is why I believe the future of this conversation will be more about how we build human plus AI. And this is what we do as a company. We started as like a human expertise network, and then we adopted AI after it. So I think the real secret sauce for any company, any tool, any application is how you can, take the best of AI, which is, computing power, fast processing, automation, and how you can get best from the human, which is judgment, empathy, and know-how and past experience. So that's why, I see that we are at a very a decisive point in the history of economy not just for knowledge work or other areas, is like, because knowledge work is basically the economy now, but overall, we stand at the kind of the nexus of the point that there will be many tools that kind of combining different strength of different, like factors like human AI, data. But the key, I mean, I think there are basically two things. I think we should be careful. Again, LLMs are not as smart as people, so that they should be the human component, at least for the foreseeable future. The second is the lack of data. I think Mariam mentioned it. Synthetic data is awful for the large language models because you can really spoil the quality of the output if you ingest a lot of synthetic data. That's why we start seeing that all these models start being commodified, and there's no really difference between GPT-4 and the Google's model now, because they will start with the same amount of data available. The way you can make those models and tools more useful is to generate more human data. And that's why we saw all these content-based companies, Reddit, etc., start getting hype again and start doing IPOs and stuff. But we believe as a company, and I believe as the CEO of Enquire AI, you need to build the optimal collaboration, among human, AI, and data. And if any company can accomplish it and build that layer on top of the foundational models, they can really upend their industries, no matter if they're in, food and beverage, consulting, accounting, legal work. The secret is to put those three ingredients together in an optimal level.
So thanks. When we look at the innovation case, what are the main innovation areas in the AI space, in your opinion?
Look, I think the innovation aspect of it, I'm going to repeat myself, but I think is how you come up with the best, collaboration among these three areas. Like, again, I think we have the large language models now. We can do a lot with them, but they're nothing close to AGI, like artificial general intelligence. I'm more in the skeptical side about the AGI side. I think it's almost impossible to replace human judgment and human empathy. Even if you can come up with like reasoning, etc., you still have, especially in business. Let's talk about, management consulting. I mean, humans are not always reasonable, as well as in politics, right? So there's always the, room of error, margin of error or margin of lack of judgment. So that's why there's always a need for human component. I think the thing is how you take that human component into equation. It could be 80% technology, 20% human in some sectors. In some sectors, that could be 99% AI, 1%, 1% human. But I think you need to come up with the optimal area. And I believe, I call it the centaur model. Like, if you remember the Greek mythology creature, half human, half, I don't have my slides here, but half human and half horse, mythological tool, and the half of the body, torso is horse, because horses are more powerful than human and they can run faster. But the brain and the upper body is human, because humans are intellect and judgment and reasoning. So I think every startup founder or even large corporation should come up with their own centaur. And this is being innovative. This is not only just building a new LLM or coming up with a new model or data analytics methodology. It's more about finding the niche for your industry and coming up with the creative solution.
Yep.
That's also more human part of the AI as well.
Yes, thanks. For the second round, as you know that we talked about a bit future, but I'll ask again, what do you think for the future? What should we expect to see?
Well, it's interesting that you both touched on AGI, and I would also sit in the skeptical department. I would say I asked my children about this the other day, and the youngest one said, "Don't be ridiculous, they're just machines." The eldest one launched into a deep philosophical discussion involving Hegel and Kant and the meaning of consciousness, and the middle one said, no, because they can't feel pain. So, you know, there's something about the human lived experience that honestly is not just a function of compute. And it's, although our gray cells are doing a lot of computing, I think I would tend to agree, and let's hope so. But in terms of where the things are going in the future, I think it would be remiss not to mention some of the issues, concerns, and risks nonetheless, even if we are optimistic about AGI. You know, the issue of bias is well known, and the issues about how we think about correcting for bias or avoiding bias are equally complex. And I think in some ways we are not really having those discussions out in the open sufficiently. And it has really big implications. If you think about financial services, you know, we're using AI models. I'm talking about some of those very practical enterprise use cases that people are already finding useful. For example, using alternative data sources for credit decision making, right? And you're finding missing market opportunities that way. But if there are biases in the AI models that you're using in the training data, then you can have some perverse outcomes. Even if you've gone through the hoops of reserving protected characteristics from a regulatory point of view and so on, there may be unintended consequences in terms of bias. And that's definitely something I'm preoccupied. And as Clara mentioned earlier, some of the broader ethical issues around how we implement AI. And I think, as I say, I think those debates need to be coming much more to the forefront of the public. Policymakers are already having those discussions, but I think all of us need to be sufficiently educated to really know and understand what that actually means. So that's the kind of one of the key things on my mind in terms of how this goes forward.
Thanks, Ms. Yes, Ms. Torsi,
I also have
what we
concerns,
should
actually,
see.
predominantly. Not obviously, like we can talk about all the benefits, but there are concerns, and the concerns are what I'm looking at now. My software, the software that we've created, is being used by corporate intelligence, asset management consultancies, and some of the use cases that I've seen are questionable. Like in the case of lobbying, in the case of searching for a user to find out who they are, where they are, and you can find all of that information because everybody leaves a trace. Like we did a case study with a company, and it was all about this person who was paying a company to remove all of their data in English off the web. But we could find the same data in other languages using the application. And that was scary to see. And there are those kind of things that might come into play as well, where you might have no place to hide online. These sorts of information can also be used for lobbying. So let's say you are a company and you really want to push forward your pharmaceutical drug, and all the effects has been negative. The side effects, every publication I've done was negative. You can easily create positively written reports about your drug and start publishing and populating the web with it. Where does that leave you when you are scraping all of this data into these applications? You would get very, very positive outcome with regards to a drug that has had very negative outcome. So these algorithms, they need to be used wisely. And this is one of the reasons we went away from like user-focused applications, like, i.e. getting information about a specific user, because it just muddied water for me. And I felt like it was a bit dangerous. But there will be other companies who would replace what I'm doing, right? And they would do exactly the same thing for other companies without any ethical remorse.
Yeah.
Right?
Thanks. Mr. Sidar, what should we expect to see for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm skeptical about the development of AGIs, and maybe that's, but it doesn't mean I'm optimistic about the future. Here's why. I think there will be more competition for any profession in the role. So like I believe the human gonna play an important role, but we will need less human. I think 3 lawyers will do the work of 10 lawyers, and because of the productivity that AI gonna bring to the table, and that means that there will be more like fierce competition in different professions. I have two sons, 10 and 8 years old, and my 10-year-old wants to be a soccer player, and an 8-year-old wants to be an actor, and fully support it, because there will be probably less competition in those areas than consultancy or legal studies, etc. Because it's such a it's going to be tough landscape for knowledge workers going forward, and it will be less people required. As I mentioned, still need the human. I think there will be no zero lawyers doing all this case, but there's one or two lawyers will be enough for a main office. So that's why I want to end my remarks with one sentence. I think it's such a critical time. I think maybe next 5-10 years will be a critical period for any knowledge worker. Like, I believe all of us in this, all of you guys in that hall and all of us in the panel are knowledge workers. So that I think the key thing is augmenting ourselves with AI. I mean, AI is an ally if you can use it well and if you can augment your capabilities. That's what I am passionate. That's why my company is building tools for professionals to make themselves more competitive in the more a fierce area. But for very long term, I'm really concerned about different industries, etc. I'm putting my political scientist hat. I'm really nervous about unemployment and inequality, because we will not really. I don't think this revolution will create more jobs than it destroyed like the previous revolution. Because industrial revolution, information revolution, they killed many jobs, but they created more and different jobs. I am having trouble, coming up with alternative jobs that AI revolution can bring. I mean, people talk about prompt engineering and this and that, but even now, prompts start being
Mr.
produced
Sidar,
by AI.
Mr. Sidar, maybe you can say the last word because
We're running out of time. Thank you so
or
much
the
for your
time is
understanding. Thank you.
end. Yeah.
No, that's it. I think that's going to be interesting times, like a Chinese proverb says. So let's see what's going to come.
Yes. Thanks. Thanks for your contribution and thanks for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your understanding. Ms. Meryem Torzishi, Mr. Cenk Sidar, Ms. Christina Frankopan, and thank you, Ms. Cenk Sidar.